Hey everyone, it's Alexander Robinson. Welcome to the channel, and this is my review for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem, the 7th theatrically released Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles film, the second animated one following 2007's TMNT, and another reinterpretation of our favorite heroes in a half shell. The plot to this movie involves the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles as they're very young. They're still stuck to the sewers. Master Splinter is worried about them going to the surface and being discovered by humans, but they're out to try to stop a supervillain named Superfly. And with the help of a high school student, April O'Neil, who wants to be a journalist herself, they team up to try to stop Superfly in the hopes that the Turtles will be accepted by society and not looked at as monsters. We all know the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It was at the height of its popularity in the 80s and 90s, but it's a franchise that's still going on to this day with several different incarnations, whether it be video games, TV shows, and whatnot. But for the sake of this review and for the sake of keeping things simple, I'm just going to talk about the movies themselves. The first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from 1990, I like, but I feel like there's a lot in that movie that could have been better. It's like when people describe the first Tim Burton Batman movie. There's some really good stuff in here, but there's also some really bad stuff that does not age well. Secret of the Ooze from 1991 is very much a guilty pleasure of mine. It's not a good movie, technically, but it's a lot of fun, and the scene where Vanilla Ice comes up with a ninja rap at random sums up the entire movie. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, on the other hand, is hot garbage. It's just awful, and the fact that they try to tack on the subtitle Turtles in Time just hurts because that's not what the movie was subtitled. It didn't have a subtitle. And for us Turtle fans, Turtles in Time is the video game, and an awesome video game at that. The 2007 movie TMNT, I have not watched since it came out in theaters. In anticipation for this movie, I've seen a few clips, and some of the stuff I really like, and other stuff I'm just like, ooh, this has not aged well, so I'm curious to re-watch that movie more than the others. And then the 2014 movie, produced by Michael Bay, is bad, but it's not the worst movie based off an 80s property that Bay had involvement with. And I never saw Out of the Shadows from 2016. From what I heard, people said it's terrible, and it's a case of be careful what you wish for, because people were hoping to see Krang and Bebop and Rocksteady in that movie, and when they got them, they weren't done justice. So I think that's a movie I'm going to skip entirely because I wasn't a fan of the first one. I have no reason to watch the other one. So for my money, based on my thoughts on the previous movies that I've seen, we don't have a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie that I would consider to be great. Until now. I have no shame at all in saying that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem is the best Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie by far. Some people have told me that Batman vs. Ninja Turtles is the best movie, but I don't count that because I'm talking about theatrically released films. And when you watch this movie, it's very clear that Spider-Verse had a huge impact on it. The animation style for this movie was clearly inspired by what the Spider-Verse movies were doing and what DreamWorks was doing last year with The Bad Guys and Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. However, what I really love about this movie is that it looks unpolished, it looks more gritty and rough than the animation style of Spider-Man, which was definitely more clean and shiny. And it actually fits with the Ninja Turtles, considering that they originally started as a 4-issue comic that was very violent and very dark. And the first movie from 1990 also had a pretty dark tone to it. So for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, this works. And the action scenes are just flat out spectacular. They're intense, they put me on the edge of my seat, and they're just overall creative in the way they're framed. The Turtles are very much the same characters as they were in previous incarnations, except this time around they're actually voiced by teenagers. And because of that, this is the very first time where I actually believe the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were actually teenagers, because in previous incarnations, the Turtles always seemed like they were teenagers in the sense that the 80s depicted teenagers. They say a bunch of cool stuff, sure, but they sound like people who are clearly not teenagers. It was a very 80s style to them that other incarnations even today have kept up. So I really love how this movie plays with the teenage aspect of these turtles, right down to Donatello still having a high-pitched voice. Not only that, but this movie plays out more like an origin story for the Turtles than previous movies, because the Turtles themselves are not well choreographed in terms of teamwork. Leonardo has moments where the other guys don't really buy him as a leader, and he's still trying to learn the ropes. And when it comes to the very first time the Turtles fight, it doesn't go well for them. They're unorganized, they're uncoordinated. Raphael clearly doesn't listen to any of them. I mean, they do win that first fight, but the process to get to that victory was not a pretty one. And the kid actors that voice the Turtles all do a really good job. I mean, the cast is pretty spot on from everyone. Probably my favorite of everyone was Jackie Chan as Splinter. And much like how this movie plays into the teenage aspect of the Turtles, this movie plays into the father aspect of Splinter, who usually is depicted as the wise sensei. And he was more the Turtles' teacher and instructor rather than an actual father. We actually get to see Splinter as a father figure this time around, and he makes a lot of the same mistakes that a father would when raising teenagers. He's very strict on them, he's wondering where they went, and is trying his best to win them over, but ultimately realizes that he may be doing things that are holding them back. And this also plays into the movie's theme about being prejudiced against those who may or are shunned by society. Because when we get the retelling of Splinter and the Turtles being exposed to the ooze and becoming mutants, we see through that story that there's a reason why Splinter hates humans. And the main reason for the Turtles going after Superfly is to try to be accepted by humans and not looked at as monsters. And April O'Neil even goes through this same type of story, because she's a high schooler who's made fun of for something that happens in the movie that is pretty funny, but for the sake of the story, she's basically an outsider herself and is willing to help the Turtles so she herself can break this news story and be accepted by her high school. And that actually gives April O'Neil more of a character than I thought she was in previous versions, because I always thought April O'Neil was just more or less there to be the Turtles' human friend, along with Casey Jones, who, spoiler alert, does not appear in this movie. So this is the first time where I actually thought April O'Neil actually got something to do and is more of a fleshed out character. And even when it comes to Superfly and the other mutants, this theme is very much persistent as well, because when the Turtles meet them, they're so excited to find other mutants besides them and Splinter, only to find out what Superfly plans to do with humans is not really what the Turtles want to do. It can be a little generic at points, and it's a theme that we've seen several times over, mainly from the X-Men movies, but considering that the Turtles originally started out as satire of the X-Men, then it's perfectly fine. Like, it makes sense that the Turtles would also tackle this theme. If I had any complaints about this movie, and it's more of a nitpick, there are some character designs in this movie that are just flat out ugly. I'm not talking about the mutants or April O'Neil. All of those character designs are really good. No, I'm talking about some of the designs for the minor human characters, or just people in the background. Some of these designs are so hideous and ugly that you wonder, why are these people not being shunned by society? Because they're more hideous than the mutants themselves. But that's a nitpick. That's something that I just wanted to bring up because it made me laugh. At the end of the day, Mutant Mayhem is probably the most perfect Ninja Turtles movie for me. It's got the action that you want to see. The characters are very much in spirit to what they've always been before, but it's a fresh new take on the series with a better script, less corny jokes than what the previous movies gave us, a fantastic animation style, and this movie clearly must have been made with me in mind, because the end goes full-blown kaiju, and I won't say exactly how, but that made me really happy. So I'd say worth seeing in your lifetime. It didn't hit me on an emotional level the same way Into the Spider-Verse did at points, so that's why I'm not saying get off your ass and go see it right now, but in comparison to Across the Spider-Verse, I think I might like this a little better, mainly because it doesn't end with a cliffhanger. It has a 3-act structure, it ends exactly where it needs to end, but there is a stinger for what's to come in the future. Whereas Across the Spider-Verse, we now have to wait longer than we originally thought, thanks to the WGA and SAG-AFTRA strikes, but also because of a lot of the animation controversy surrounding that film. If you're a fan of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, then you'll really dig the hell out of this movie. And if you're not a fan, then this is a perfect introduction because it's just a good movie on its own. Easily one of my favorites of the year, and I can't wait to watch it again. And there you go, that's my review for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. I hope you enjoyed it, and now I want to know what you guys think about the movie. If you've seen it, what did you think? Whatever the case may be, let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell button to get notifications. You can also follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Letterboxd, Threads. I'll see you guys in the next video, but until then, have a good day and take care of yourselves.